You're not lazy, you're not broken, you're just walking through life without a vision, and that's the most dangerous thing of all, because without a target, every step feels like failure. But the moment you see it, truly see it, everything changes. Your energy shifts, your mind sharpens, distractions fall away. In this video, you'll learn why clarity isn't just power, it's everything, and why the people with unshakable vision never lose, even when the world counts them out. You wake up tired, but not from lack of sleep, from the weight of motion without meaning. You're busy, always doing something, always moving, but where are you actually going? That question haunts more people than they'll ever admit, because deep down, they know the truth. They're not lazy. They're lost. And it's not their effort that's the problem. It's the lack of direction. You can run at full speed, but if you're headed nowhere, what does it matter? There's a kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from working too hard. It comes from drifting, from pouring your energy into tasks that don't build toward anything that matters to you. It feels like burning calories in a maze, only to end up right where you started. You wonder why nothing feels fulfilling, why progress feels fake, and why you're constantly second-guessing every move. It's not because you're weak, it's because you're moving without a target. Society doesn't teach you to have a vision. It teaches you to respond. Respond to school schedules, respond to bosses, respond to trends. You're rewarded for being efficient, not intentional. And over time, you become a machine without a mission, high-functioning but disconnected from your own desires. You show up, get things done, check the boxes, but there's no fire, no purpose, no clear answer to the question, why? But here's the truth nobody told you. Clarity is rare, and without it, your talent means nothing. Your potential sits dormant. Your dreams fade into the background, and the world sees you as average, because even your brilliance needs a direction to shine. The problem isn't that you're not capable. The problem is that you haven't defined where you're going. And until you do, your energy will continue to scatter, your motivation will fluctuate, and your results will disappoint. You're not broken. You're not unmotivated. You're just visionless. And the cure isn't hustle. It's clarity. It's sitting down and asking, what do I truly want to build with my life? Not what others expect, not what feels safe, but what ignites something deep in your core. Because once you have that vision, once you lock eyes with a future that moves you, it's like flipping a switch. Your decisions sharpen, your time gains value, your energy returns, direction gives pain a purpose, it makes struggle feel like steps, it turns chaos into a path. And that's the power of vision, not just to inspire you, but to anchor you when everything else feels uncertain. So if you're feeling lost, stop searching for motivation, start searching for clarity, because you're not meant to wander. You're meant to lead yourself to something bigger, something true, something only you can see. And the second you define it, you're no longer lost, you're dangerous. You can wake up at 5 a.m., train your body, block distractions, and push through discomfort. But without a vision, all that discipline becomes routine without reward. People praise discipline like it's the highest virtue, but they forget something critical. Discipline without direction is just controlled chaos. It'll take you far, yes, but in circles, and eventually you'll burn out. Not from working hard, but from working hard without a deeper reason. Discipline gets you out of bed. Vision gives you a reason to rise. Think about the people who show up day after day, grind with intensity, and still feel hollow inside. They're not weak, they're misaligned. They're doing the work, but they don't know why anymore. Their discipline becomes robotic. Their drive becomes mechanical. And when the pressure hits, when life punches them in the gut, they fall. Because they were relying on willpower instead of vision. And willpower has a limit. Vision doesn't. Vision is emotional. It taps into something deeper than checklists and habits. It whispers to your soul, not just your schedule. It reminds you who you said you would become, especially on the days you forget. Because pain will come, fatigue will test you, the world will laugh, doubt, and distract. And in those moments, you won't find strength and discipline alone. You'll find it in your why, in the mental picture of a life worth fighting for. The most powerful people in the world don't just move with discipline. They're pulled forward by something greater, something clear, something vivid. They've already seen their future so many times in their mind that the pain of the present feels small in comparison. They don't just act, they act with intent, and that intent makes them relentless. Discipline is a tool. Vision is the blueprint. Without the blueprint, you're just hammering nails into empty air. But when the two come together, when your vision fuels your discipline, every action becomes meaningful. Every sacrifice becomes strategic. Every setback becomes temporary. You don't need more discipline. You need to reconnect with the future you once dreamed about. The version of you that didn't shrink to fit comfort. The version that still believed in doing something great. Because that's where your power is, not in the perfect routine, but in the vision that makes it worth it. When you can see the goal so clearly, it makes your heart race. No alarm clock can stop you. No failure can silence you. No doubt can hold you. You don't push yourself out of bed when you have vision, you rise. And if the world tells you it's impossible, your vision tells you to go anyway. Because the most dangerous person isn't the most disciplined one. It's the one with fire in their eyes and a future in their heart. And once you've felt that kind of clarity, you'll never settle for anything less. You used to have it. That spark, that picture in your mind of a future that made you feel alive. Maybe it wasn't fully clear, but it was there, burning quietly in the background. Until the world got louder, until your phone became your leash, until every swipe, scroll, and ping pulled your attention into 1,000 tiny pieces. Now you wake up feeling behind, go to sleep feeling incomplete, and wonder why your life feels like a loop instead of a path. Distraction is not harmless. It is the silent killer of vision. You don't lose your future in one dramatic moment. You lose it slowly by giving your focus to things that don't matter. You trade clarity for stimulation. You exchange purpose for dopamine. And over time, the vision fades. Not because it wasn't real, but because it never had a chance to grow in the chaos you now call normal. You can't build anything meaningful in a mind constantly under attack. Focus isn't just a nice-to-have skill anymore. In this age, it's survival. Because the world doesn't just want your money, it wants your mind. It wants you distracted, docile, consuming, not creating, watching others live instead of designing your own life. And the truth is, the longer you let distraction win, the harder it becomes to remember what you are here to do. Vision requires silence, space, stillness. But those things are rare now, so rare we mistake them for laziness. But the people who change the world know something different. They know that to protect their vision, they must guard their attention like treasure. Because every time you check a feed instead of your future, you've made a trade. You've chosen someone else's content over your own calling. And the worst part, you don't even notice it happening. That's what makes distraction so dangerous. It doesn't scream, it whispers, it convinces you that you're just taking a break, just checking something quick, just staying updated. But while you're busy being informed, your vision is starving. The most focused people in the world aren't superhuman. They're just ruthless with what they allow into their minds. They say no. They disappear. They choose boredom over noise because they know greatness comes from depth, not dopamine. They are not victims of distraction. They are architects of focus. You don't need more time. You need fewer thieves. Start with 5 minutes. 5 quiet, intentional minutes to remember where you're going and slowly take back your mind because your vision is still in there, waiting. And the second you silence the noise long enough to hear it again, you'll remember who you were becoming before the world got so loud. Your future has been calling. You've just been too distracted to pick up. Everything changes the moment you get specific. Not when you dream, not when you hope, but when you decide. There's a shift that happens the instant your vision sharpens. It's like the world had been holding its breath, waiting for you to commit. And once you do, everything starts to move. Opportunities emerge. People show up. Paths clear. Not because the universe suddenly wakes up, but because you do. Before that moment, life feels random. You try things, abandon them, chase results that don't fulfill you. You feel busy but unsatisfied, disciplined but directionless. And it's not because you're incapable, it's because your target is foggy. You're swinging hard, but the punch doesn't land. Because energy without clarity is noise. And no matter how strong your engine is, if the steering wheel is loose, you'll crash into the same wall again and again. But then it happens. You sit with yourself long enough to ask the hard question, what do I actually want? Not what sounds good, not what impresses others, not what's safe, but what ignites something inside you. And when the answer finally surfaces, when you stare it in the face and say, yes, that's it, your body knows. Your posture shifts, your voice steadies, your time suddenly has weight, and the universe, it listens. Not because it owes you anything, but because you finally spoke with conviction. Clarity is a signal. It tells the world I'm no longer drifting, and the world, chaotic as it may be, starts to respond. Not instantly, not easily, but undeniably. People misunderstand this part. They think clarity is about guarantees. It's not. It's about alignment. Once you define the vision, your actions start lining up. Your decisions get simpler. Your no becomes stronger. You stop entertaining options that don't match the mission. And as you narrow your focus, life narrows the noise. You'll notice something else too. Resistance shows up. Discomfort intensifies, not because you're wrong, but because you're finally moving in the right direction. That friction, it's confirmation, because anything worth doing will cost you comfort, and clarity demands a payment. Excuses, distractions, old versions of yourself. You can't take those with you, not where you're going. But the reward is everything. Peace in motion, confidence under pressure, a life that feels like it's actually yours. Because once you define what you're building, the world can stop guessing. You can stop drifting. And forward becomes the only direction that makes sense. So make the decision. Say it out loud. Write it down. Burn it into your mind. The world doesn't need another person waiting for permission. It needs someone with a vision so clear, it makes hesitation impossible. The day you define it is the day your life stops reacting and starts creating. You can write a plan. You can list goals. You can check every box on your calendar. But if your vision doesn't move something inside you, if it doesn't stir your blood and catch your breath, it won't survive the storm, because logic folds under pressure. But emotion can drag you through fire. The visions that last aren't just well thought out, they're felt. They live in your chest, not just your mind. You can tell when someone sees it clearly. Not because of what they say, but because of how they move. There's a rhythm to them, a presence. They speak with weight. They walk with direction. And when life hits them hard, and it will, they don't collapse. Because they're not just running toward an idea. They're chasing a future they've already felt. That's the key. You don't just visualize it. You emotionalize it. You see the version of yourself that's already there. Standing on that stage. Opening that business. Holding that degree. Healing that relationship. Changing that life. And it hits you, not just as a possibility, but as a truth waiting to be claimed. Your heartbeat changes. Your eyes burn a little, because for a split second you believe, not as theory, but as reality, as destiny. And in that moment you've done something powerful. You've made the future feel real in the present. And once your nervous system accepts that vision as possible, your behavior follows. Your habits shift, your standards rise, your excuses shrink, because now it's personal. And nothing is stronger than a future that feels like home. That's why generic goals don't work. Make more money, Be more productive. Get in shape. They mean nothing without emotion. But when you can see yourself walking into your dream office, hear the sound of your children cheering for you, feel the freedom of making your own time, you're not just thinking, you're building, you're transforming, you're giving your body a reason to push, even when your mind wants to stop. Emotion is fuel. It's the multiplier of vision. The problem is most people never give themselves permission to go that deep. They stay in the safe zone, the analytical zone. They ask what makes sense instead of what sets me on fire. But clarity without feeling is hollow. And when life gets heavy, hollow breaks. But when your vision is laced with emotion, when it wraps itself around your heart, there's no going back. So go there, close your eyes, picture it so vividly it brings tears or goosebumps or anger or hunger. Whatever it is, make it real. Because the more you feel it now, the more unstoppable you become. The future belongs to the ones who feel it before they see it. Because that kind of vision, it can't be shaken, only realized. Every day, whether you realize it or not, you're building something. You're spending your time, your energy, your talent. The hours are going somewhere. The focus is being used. The work is being done. The question isn't if you're building a vision. The question is, whose vision are you building? That's the uncomfortable truth most people never stop to confront. Because it's easy to tell yourself you're just doing your job, just helping out, just getting by. But if you haven't chosen your vision, someone else already has. And they're more than happy to let you spend your life making their dream come true. It starts slowly. A paycheck here, a project there, a little compromise today, a little silence tomorrow. Before you know it, your calendar belongs to someone else's mission. Your talents are spent achieving someone else's goals. Your voice, once full of ideas and ambition, now only speaks when spoken to. You're contributing, but you're not creating. You're showing up, but you're not growing up. And the scariest part? You get used to it. You convince yourself it's fine. You justify the comfort. You avoid the question. Because asking it, truly asking it, would mean facing the reality that you've been building someone else's life with your hands. But deep down you feel it, that tension, that quiet resentment, that silent ache when you watch someone do what you wish you had the courage to pursue, that inner whisper saying, this isn't it. And it's not because your job is bad or the people around you are wrong. It's because your soul knows you're meant for more than being a piece in someone else's puzzle. This isn't about quitting your job or burning everything down. It's about remembering you have a choice. You can decide to stop being a builder of borrowed dreams. You can carve out time, energy, and focus to build your vision brick by brick, day by day, even if it starts small, even if no one sees it yet. Because when you finally take ownership of your future, everything changes. Your time gains value. Your yes becomes sacred. Your no becomes powerful. You stop apologizing for wanting something bigger. You stop hiding behind someday. You stop waiting for permission to become who you already are. You weren't born to be background. You were born to be bold. But boldness requires direction, and direction requires a vision that you chose, not one that was handed to you, not one that was expected of you, one that lights you up, scares you a little, and demands the best of who you are. So ask yourself right now, whose future are you building? If the answer isn't yours, it's time to change that, because you're already building something. Make sure it's something you believe in, something that belongs to you. Fear thrives in uncertainty. It feeds off the unknown, the unclear, the moments when you hesitate and ask, what if it all goes wrong? That's when it gets loud. That's when doubt creeps in and makes even the smallest challenge feel like an avalanche. But there's one thing fear can't touch, a vision so clear it burns. Because when you see your future with conviction, fear doesn't vanish. It just becomes irrelevant. You don't need to eliminate fear to move forward. You just need something bigger than fear, and that's what a clear vision gives you. It becomes the fire that keeps burning when the cold of uncertainty creeps in. It becomes the anchor in the storm, the compass in the chaos, the reason you keep going when everything in you screams to stop. People think courage is about being fearless. It's not. It's about being so in love with where you're going that fear doesn't get a vote. That's what clarity does. It overrides emotion with purpose. You might still shake, your hands might sweat, your stomach might turn, but you go anyway, not because you're fearless, but because your vision speaks louder than your doubt. Think about the moments in life when you've been unstoppable. They weren't the times when everything felt easy. They were the times when your reason for acting was crystal clear, when you knew what mattered, when you were willing to be uncomfortable, to face rejection, to walk alone, because you saw something greater than the fear in front of you. That kind of clarity gives you edge. It makes you dangerous, because the person with nothing but talent can be shaken. But the person with vision, the person who wakes up with fire in their soul and a picture in their mind of a future they refuse to die without creating, you can't stop that person. You can only watch them build what everyone else was too scared to start. Fear only rules those who haven't chosen their destination. Once you know where you're going, fear's voice shrinks. It still whispers, but it no longer commands. You hear it, but you don't obey it. You acknowledge it, but you don't follow it. Because something inside you, something burning, something immovable, has already made the decision. So when fear shows up, let it. But don't let it steer. Look it in the eye and remind it, I've seen the future, and it's mine. That vision, clear, felt, and chosen, is the one thing fear can't break. And when the world tries to rattle you, when doubt presses in from every side, remember, fear may still knock, but a clear vision never opens the door. Struggle without clarity feels like punishment, like life is just throwing weight on your shoulders for no reason. You wake up tired, you push through, and you ask yourself, what's the point? But the second you know where you're going, truly know it, everything changes. The pain doesn't disappear, the struggle doesn't ease, but now it has a purpose. Now it becomes fuel. Clarity doesn't remove obstacles, it just makes them worth it. Most people don't quit because they're weak. They quit because they can't see the destination. They're carrying the weight, but they don't know where they're dragging it to. And when you don't have a clear reason to endure, even small resistance feels like defeat. But when the vision is sharp, when it burns in your soul like a promise, you can walk through fire, because the fire isn't pointless anymore. It's shaping you. When you know exactly what you're building, every setback becomes a step. Every failure becomes feedback. Every long night, every tight budget, every no you hear becomes part of the story you're writing. Not dead ends, just chapters. And that shift in perspective is what separates the ones who quit from the ones who become unstoppable. Pain isn't the enemy, confusion is. Because when you know what you want, pain becomes a signal, not to stop, but to grow. You lean into it, you study it. You ask, what is this teaching me? What is this carving out of me? What weakness is this exposing so I can strengthen it? Clarity doesn't protect you from pressure. It just gives the pressure meaning. It turns suffering into sculpting. This is why some people crumble under weight and others rise from it, not because one is stronger, but because one sees it differently. One sees pain as an attack. The other sees pain as the price of purpose. You won't always feel motivated, you won't always feel strong, but if you have clarity, you'll always have direction. And direction gives you something to aim at when the emotion fades. It turns survival into strategy. It keeps you moving when motivation isn't enough. So get clear, so clear that no amount of resistance can make you question your path. So clear that even on your worst day, you still know why you're moving forward. Not because it feels good, but because it's who you are now. A builder, a creator, a fighter with a future. When you have that kind of clarity, life stops happening to you. It starts happening through you. The pain doesn't break you, it builds you. It carves out the version of you that can carry the vision you've chosen. And once you feel that shift, you never see struggle the same again, because now it's not just pain, it's progress, and you're finally headed somewhere worth suffering for. Your life bends in the direction of your focus. Whatever you lock your eyes on becomes the blueprint your environment responds to. Look at fear, and fear multiplies. Look at problems, and they grow teeth. But the moment you shift your gaze toward the vision, toward the outcome you want, not the chaos around you, something powerful happens. The noise fades, the distractions blur, the obstacles don't disappear, but they lose their size, because your environment always follows your eyes. You don't rise by chance, you rise by focus. Most people spend their energy scanning for what's wrong, what might go wrong, what already went wrong, and the world, ever so obliging, serves it all to them: problems, delays, conflicts, excuses. But that isn't reality, that's selective attention. They're not surrounded by more problems than anyone else, they're just looking for them. And the brain, like a loyal servant, finds them everywhere. But the ones who build something great, they see the same world, but through different eyes. They've trained themselves to see outcomes instead of obstacles, to see opportunity in chaos, to look at a storm and see harvest, not disaster, because their focus isn't on the resistance, it's on the result. And their environment obeys. If you walk into every day scanning for distractions, you'll find them. If you scan for critics, you'll hear them loud and clear. But if you lock your vision onto your goal, if you look so far ahead that nothing beside you can pull your attention, you'll start to notice something strange. The obstacles don't seem so massive. The resistance feels manageable, not because it got smaller, but because you got bigger. Focus is the great magnifier. Whatever you give attention to expands. That's why you need to be ruthless about what you allow in your line of sight. Your dream is too valuable to be hijacked by drama. Your purpose is too real to be drowned out by distractions. You have to train your mind to look past the noise, past the doubt, past the delays, and stare down your vision until it's the only thing that feels real. You're not a product of your environment. Your environment is a product of your perspective. The world will bend around your dominant focus. So if you focus on lack, you'll always feel behind. If you focus on fear, you'll always feel stuck. But if you focus on your outcome, what you're becoming, what you're building, what's possible, you start to walk like it's already yours. And that shift, that's when the environment starts to change. People show up differently. Conversations shift. Time opens. Momentum builds. Not because the universe suddenly became nicer, but because you stopped reacting and started leading with your eyes. So lift your gaze. Fix it on the future you've chosen. Let the rest fall out of focus, because your life will always follow your vision, and your environment will follow your eyes. Every single time. The lie we've been sold is that success comes with a map, that someone somewhere has the perfect sequence, the right playbook, the one-size-fits-all answer. And so we wait, we hesitate, we scroll, listen, collect advice, hoping the path will be handed to us in perfect order. But life doesn't work like that. It doesn't hand you a map. It gives you a compass. It points in a direction and says, you decide what matters most. If you're waiting for certainty, you'll wait forever. The path doesn't show up before you move. It shows up as you move. And that's why vision matters more than plans. A map tells you every turn. A compass just says that way. The rest, you figure it out along the way. through mistakes, through resistance, through adjusting, refining, and rebuilding. That's not failure, that's navigation. The ones who win long term aren't the ones who had it all mapped out. They're the ones who knew what they stood for. They had a North Star, something fixed, something clear, something that didn't shift with pressure or public opinion. It didn't tell them exactly what to do each day. It told them who to become. And from that clarity, every decision got easier. You don't need to know all the steps. You need to know the direction. What matters to you? What are you willing to suffer for? What's the thing that, even if it takes years, would still be worth building? That's your North Star. It's the vision that outlives setbacks. It's the deeper why that makes the how less terrifying. Because once you decide what you want most, you stop getting distracted by what you want now. Without that guiding vision, life feels random. You'll bounce from job to job, idea to idea, relationship to relationship, always busy, rarely fulfilled, not because you're broken, but because you've never chosen your true direction. But the second you commit, even imperfectly, to a vision that burns in you, everything sharpens. Your time, your circle, your decisions, the clutter falls away, and the path starts forming under your feet. It doesn't matter if the steps are messy. Clarity is never about perfection, it's about alignment. And when you align your daily actions with a deeper mission, even failure becomes progress. You're no longer chasing outcomes, you're embodying a direction. So stop searching for the map. You don't need one. All you need is that North Star, your vision, your values, your unshakable reason. Fix your eyes on that and take the next right step, then the next, and the next. Because the path is never pre-written. It's carved by the ones who walk it. And it always starts with a decision. That's where I'm going. Nothing else will do. Your past only has power when you give it the mic. Every mistake, every failure, every mischance, it's all behind you. But if you keep dragging it into the present, it becomes your identity instead of your history. And vision has no interest in your history. It's not built on what happened. It's built on what you decide now. That's the beauty of vision. It doesn't care where you've been. It only asks one thing: where are you going? Too many people use their past as a permission slip to stay small. They say, I've never done that before, or I failed last time, or people like me don't do things like that. And in those sentences, they bury their future. Not because the future rejected them, but because they refuse to separate from their past. But vision doesn't need your permission. It needs your decision. The future doesn't check your resume. It doesn't care how long you've been stuck. It doesn't care if you've made every wrong turn up until this point. Vision doesn't need your track record. It needs your commitment. And when you finally make the choice to build something greater, the past loses its grip. Because clarity cuts ties. It tells your story where to end and your new one where to begin. You're not limited by your past. You're limited by your loyalty to it. The mind clings to what it knows. And sometimes what it knows best is struggle, comfort in the pain, identity in the failure. But when you create a vision that burns bright enough, the old identity can't survive. You start making moves that don't match your history, and that's where the real battle begins. You'll feel the resistance, the doubt, the internal voice that says, who do you think you are? And the answer must be, I'm someone who finally decided. That's it. That's the line in the sand. You don't need to be qualified to choose a new direction. You just need to be done settling. The past can teach, but it should never steer, because what you're building now has nothing to do with what didn't work before. It's not about redemption. It's about creation. You're not fixing the past. You're replacing it. You're writing something new. And every day you move forward with that vision, you weaken the hold of the story that once defined you. So if you're waiting to feel worthy, stop. Vision doesn't require worthiness, it creates it. The moment you choose where you're going, you become someone new. not later, not when you earn it, now. In the moment of decision, identity begins to shift. You are not your past, you are your next move. And your vision doesn't need an apology, it needs your full attention. Every masterpiece began as a blurry idea in someone's mind. Every skyscraper, every movement, every revolutionary invention, it all started with a vision so bold the world laughed at it. Because nothing legendary looks logical in the beginning. It looks unreasonable, audacious, sometimes even delusional. But greatness never comes from playing it safe. It comes from seeing what isn't there yet and having the guts to build it anyway. The people you admire most weren't handed blueprints. They carved them out of conviction. They didn't wait for the world to agree with them. They didn't ask for permission or proof. They trusted what they saw in their minds before anyone else could understand it. And they paid the price for that vision. Loneliness, ridicule, failure, but they kept moving. Not because it made sense, but because they couldn't ignore it. That's what separates average from extraordinary. Not talent, not luck. Vision. At first, your vision will feel too big, too far, too unrealistic. That's how you know it's real. Because anything that fits neatly inside the limits of your current life isn't a vision, it's maintenance. Real vision disrupts you. It stretches your imagination. It asks more of you than you're ready to give. And that discomfort, that's where transformation begins. Don't shrink your vision to match your circumstances. Expand your character to match your vision. The world conditions you to be realistic, to dream responsibly, to color inside the lines. And if you're not careful, you'll confuse being practical with being afraid. But clarity doesn't come from playing small. It comes from stepping into something bold enough to scare you and deciding it's still yours. Not because you have all the answers, but because you know it's the direction your soul demands. Conviction is the bridge between clarity and action. You won't always feel ready. You won't always feel capable. But when your belief in the vision outweighs your doubt, you move anyway. And the moment you take that first step, clarity deepens. Momentum begins. Doors open. Not all at once, but just enough to keep going. Just enough to prove that maybe, just maybe, you weren't crazy after all. Every great life started as a vision that made no sense to the crowd. It was too ambitious, too fast, too different. But that's the point. Vision isn't meant to blend in, it's meant to break through. And if you're brave enough to choose it, you're already ahead of 99% of people who are still waiting for permission. So draw the line, declare the outcome, choose the impossible. Because it's only impossible until you do it. Your vision doesn't need to make sense right now. It needs to make you move. And once you move with conviction, clarity follows. That's how legends are made. Patience is impossible when you're unsure. When your future feels vague, every delay feels like a rejection. Every quiet season feels like failure. And that's when most people quit. Not because they're weak, but because they don't see what they're waiting for. But when your vision is clear, when it's so vivid that you can almost touch it, patience becomes possible. Because now you're not hoping, you're expecting. You're not lost, you're aligned. When you truly believe in what's coming, you stop rushing. That's the paradox of clarity. It doesn't make the journey easier. It just makes the waiting tolerable. The struggle becomes part of the process, not a sign that it's not working. You stop looking for shortcuts. You stop trying to force fruit out of unripe seasons. Instead, you water the seed daily because you know what's growing, even if no one else sees it yet. Without vision, time feels like your enemy. You get impatient. You question everything. You compare your journey to others. You jump ship at the first sign of resistance. But when your vision is rooted deep, you stop comparing. You stop questioning. You trust the process because you trust the destination. The delays don't rattle you. They remind you you're still moving. and movement, even slow, is still power. Look at anyone who built something extraordinary. They didn't rush. They didn't skip steps. They weren't chasing viral moments. They were building foundations. And they could wait, not because they were naturally patient, but because they saw the end before it ever existed. They believed in something bigger than the calendar. They trusted their pace more than the pressure. Patience without vision feels like punishment. Patience with vision feels like preparation. There's a difference between being still and being stuck. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is wait on purpose. Not in fear, not in apathy, but in quiet, focused certainty. Every day you stay committed. Every day you show up when it's not glamorous. Every day you choose not to quit. You're telling your future, I'm ready for you. I'm not going anywhere. Vision gives you the faith to build while it's still invisible. And no, it won't always feel exciting. Some days you'll doubt. Some days you'll wonder if anything's really happening. But that's when you remember, vision isn't about feelings. It's about direction. And direction gives you endurance. Because this isn't about instant reward. This is about living a life that was worth the wait. So take a breath. Zoom out. Remind yourself of where you're going. Not everything needs to happen now. Not every step needs to be dramatic. Some of the most important progress is silent, patient, and slow. You don't rush destiny. You walk toward it daily, deliberately, and without apology, because you've already seen it. And if you don't stop walking, it's only a matter of time. The words you speak aren't just sounds, they're signals, instructions to your mind, commands to your subconscious. Every time you speak your vision out loud with conviction, you're not just expressing it, you're embedding it, because your brain listens to repetition. It doesn't care if it's true right now. It cares if you say it often enough, powerfully enough, emotionally enough. Speak something long enough, and your nervous system starts to believe it's already real. This is how identity is rewritten, one word at a time. Most people speak their fears more than their future. They say things like, I'm not good enough, I've always been like this, nothing ever works out for me. And with every word, they reinforce an old reality they claim to hate. But the problem isn't just the belief, it's the ritual. What you say repeatedly becomes who you are. Not because of magic, but because of programming. Your mind becomes what you feed it, and your mouth is the spoon. That's why affirmations aren't fluff, they're strategy, but not empty ones, not generic lines with no emotion. It has to be felt. When you declare your vision out loud, clear, specific, and personal, you start to train your identity to rise. You stop being someone who's chasing a dream and start becoming someone who lives it, not in the future, now. With every sentence, you close the gap between who you were and who you're becoming. The process is simple but powerful. Say it again, say it until it feels natural. Say it especially when it doesn't, because that's when it matters most. Repetition rewires identity. You don't become confident by hoping. You become confident by hearing yourself speak with certainty even before it feels earned. You don't become disciplined by waiting to feel motivated. You speak it. I'm someone who follows through. I finish what I start. I create, I execute, I build. These aren't lies, they're seeds, and with enough repetition, they take root. It's not about pretending, it's about programming. Because let's be real, life will challenge your vision. It will test your voice. It will give you every reason to stay quiet. But when you've trained yourself to speak your future, even in the middle of fear, you become unshakable. Not because the world got easier, but because you got louder. So speak it, even when no one's listening. Especially when no one's listening, because those moments shape your inner world more than any applause ever could. That's where belief is born, not in the crowd, but in the silence, where your voice is the only one that matters. Say the vision, feel it, repeat it, until it's not just something you hope for, it's something you are. People don't treat you based on who you are. They treat you based on who you think you are. And whether you realize it or not, you're teaching the world how to see you every day by how you carry yourself, how you speak about yourself, and most importantly, what you believe is possible for you. If your vision for your life is small, quiet, hesitant, the world mirrors it. But if your vision is bold, certain, and loud, the world adjusts. The world responds to conviction, not credentials. Walk into a room believing you're average and watch how you blend into the walls. Walk in like you've got nothing to prove but everything to offer, and see how the energy shifts. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. Because once you've seen something greater for yourself, once you've locked eyes with a future that demands more of you, you can't keep shrinking to fit spaces that were never meant for you. You rise, and the world either rises with you or gets out of your way. This is the power of vision. It shapes not just your internal world, but your external one. It teaches people how to speak to you, how to deal with you, how to respect your time, your standards, your path. Because when you walk with clarity, you stop asking for validation. You stop chasing acceptance. You stop bending your identity just to keep people comfortable. When you believe in your own value, you stop negotiating your worth. That doesn't mean you won't be doubted. It doesn't mean the world will clap for you, but it does mean you'll stop waiting for applause to feel legitimate. Your power doesn't come from how others see you. It comes from how you see yourself and what you're willing to demand from life because of it. Vision isn't just about what you want to build. It's about who you're becoming in the process. And once that version of you becomes non-negotiable, the rest of the world adjusts, slowly, painfully sometimes, but inevitably, because you've stopped showing up like an option. You've become a force. If you keep seeing yourself as stuck, behind, replaceable, the world will treat you like that. But if your vision says, I'm becoming someone worth watching, worth listening to, worth following, then people will begin to feel it before they understand it. That energy is unmistakable. And it doesn't need to be explained, it just needs to be lived. So raise the vision, lift the standard, not for show, but for alignment. Let your clarity speak louder than your history. Let your self-respect teach the world how to engage with you, because when you stop apologizing for your ambition, the world either honors it or gets left behind. You are not what they say. You are what you believe. And the second you refuse to see yourself as average, the world has no choice but to reconsider. Everyone wants a better life until they realize it comes with a price tag, and that price is comfort. Vision demands that you let go of the old version of yourself, not because it was bad, but because it's no longer big enough. If you want to become the person your future requires, you can't stay loyal to your past. That includes your habits, your mindset, your circle, and even your identity. Vision isn't a gentle invitation, it's a hard interruption. The gap between who you are and who you want to be is filled with discomfort. You can't bring small thinking into a big future. You can't drag doubt, procrastination, or people-pleasing into the life you say you want. That version of you, the one that's driven, disciplined, and clear, that version isn't born in ease. It's born in the decision to outgrow your excuses, to shed the layers of identity that were built for survival, not success. And that shedding, it hurts. It's painful to leave behind what's familiar, to say no to distractions you used to call rest, to distance yourself from people who once felt like home. But every time you choose growth over comfort, you're voting for your future. Every time you sit with the discomfort instead of numbing it, you're telling your vision, I'm serious. The world will try to pull you back into the shallow end, into the version of you that kept everyone happy but kept you small. And you'll be tempted because comfort feels safe. But comfort is the most seductive lie there is. It tells you this is good enough, even when your soul is screaming for more. It makes mediocrity feel normal. It makes playing small look responsible. But the truth is, Nothing great is born from comfort. It's born from courage. You don't grow in the places where everything makes sense. You grow in the tension between who you are and who you know you could be. That's where discipline is forged. That's where resilience is built. That's where self-respect is earned, not by doing what's easy, but by doing what's necessary, even when it's lonely, even when it's awkward, even when it feels like you're walking blind. Your vision will cost you comfort, but it will pay you back in purpose. So if it feels hard, good. If it feels uncomfortable, good. That means you're moving. That means the old version of you is being challenged. And that means the new version, the one that's clearer, stronger, and more aligned, is being born. Let go of what no longer fits. Walk away from what no longer serves. Say goodbye to the version of you that settled, because your vision is waiting, and it won't wait forever. If you want to become who you're meant to be, comfort can't come with you. You don't owe your vision to the world before it's ready. You don't need to explain it, justify it, or package it in a way that makes others comfortable. Because the truth is, most people won't understand what you're building, not at first. They'll question it, minimize it, maybe even laugh at it. But that's not your cue to shrink. That's your cue to protect. Some visions are so sacred, so raw, they require silence while they grow. You don't need applause. You need resolve. We live in a culture addicted to validation. Post it, share it, prove it. But real vision doesn't start in the spotlight. It starts in solitude. It starts in quiet mornings when no one's watching, in late nights when no one's clapping. It grows in the dark when it's just you and your discipline, just you and the fire in your chest. And in those moments, you learn to stop needing permission. Because the most dangerous kind of focus is the one that doesn't flinch when it's alone. If you're not careful, you'll leak your vision to people who can't carry it. Not because they're evil, but because they weren't assigned to it. And every time they project doubt, you'll start to question what you once felt certain about. Not because your vision changed, but because your circle doesn't match your calling. Some people can't see what you see because they were never meant to. And that's okay. Silence is not weakness, it's protection. Every bold future starts with a quiet decision. A decision to walk by conviction, not consensus. A decision to keep showing up even when no one's cheering. A decision to say, I know what I saw, even when it makes no sense on paper. That kind of belief is unshakable because it's not built on evidence. It's built on knowing. You don't need to prove yourself early. You don't need to answer every doubt. You just need to keep building. Let your results be the response. Let your progress speak louder than your posts. And when the vision becomes visible, when the thing they couldn't see finally stands in front of them, there will be nothing left to explain. So don't be discouraged when it feels lonely. That's part of it. That's how you know you're in the right territory. Not everyone can come with you. Not everyone should. And your job isn't to make them believe, it's to keep moving. Protect the vision, even when it's fragile, even when it feels ridiculous, especially when it feels impossible, because that's when it's closest to becoming real. You don't need noise, you need commitment, and commitment doesn't announce itself. It just keeps going. When your vision is unshakable, your future is no longer a question, it's a countdown. Because real vision isn't wishful thinking, it's not fantasy, it's not fluff. It's a preview of a life that's waiting for you on the other side of persistence. And once you see it clearly, once it locks in your mind and refuses to let go, it becomes inevitable. The only thing that can stop it is you quitting. And if you don't, it's not a matter of if, it's when. Most people treat vision like a lottery ticket, something they hope might work out if the timing is right, if the luck holds, if the world cooperates. But the ones who actually build it, they treat it like a contract, a promise to themselves, a non-negotiable direction, backed by action. Day in, day out, without fanfare, without shortcuts, just focus, relentless focus. Unshakable vision doesn't need motivation. It creates it. Because when you've truly seen what your life could become, every day becomes an opportunity to get closer to it. You're not chasing dreams, you're pulling them into reality. With every habit, every sacrifice, every moment of silence where you choose progress over comfort, you're casting bricks into the foundation of a future you've already visited 1,000 times in your mind. And no, it won't happen overnight. It won't come without frustration. But vision changes your relationship with time. You stop needing instant results because you know it's on its way. You can endure the waiting. You can stomach the grind. Because your belief isn't fragile, it's forged. You don't need outside validation because your conviction is louder than the noise. That's the difference between those who try and those who build. Trying leaves when it gets inconvenient. Building stays when it gets hard. Trying hopes it works out. Building decides it will. And when you operate from unshakable vision, your decisions reflect that certainty. You don't waste time. You don't entertain drama. You don't chase distraction. You move with purpose. You speak with weight. You show up like the outcome is already done, because in your heart it is. And here's what the world can't handle. Once you truly believe in your future, once your vision becomes more real to you than your past, nothing can stop you. They can slow you, doubt you, mock you, but they can't break you, because people can't destroy what they didn't build. And they didn't build this. You did, quietly, consistently, day after day after day. And one day they'll call it luck. They'll say it happened overnight, but you'll know it was never a dream. It was a preview, and you were simply the one who refused to quit. That's the power of unshakable vision. It doesn't just inspire, it delivers.